Hi, everybody. My name is Ed Lynch, and welcome to Surfing Baseball. I've decided to start this podcast with my good friend, Bob Nightengale, a renowned baseball insider, nationally published author and reporter for USA Today. The two of us have decided that we need to get some of the facts out there that people just aren't hearing. Frankly, there's a lot of bullshit going around in our game about a lot of things. And a lot of people are talking as if they have accomplished some of the things that myself and Bob have accomplished, and they haven't. So I think it's time that we set the record straight on what we think the truth is from our perspective. I'm not saying it is the truth. It's our opinion, but it's based on personal experience and fact, which is better than going to a bookstore and buying a book about baseball and coming out thinking you're an expert. To tell you a little bit about myself, if you know who I am, you must be a trivia expert. Just kidding. I pitched for the New York Mets and the Chicago Cubs, but I did pitch in Little League and I pitched in high school like a lot of us did. I pitched in the College World Series. I pitched in a state championship game in high school. Unfortunately, I lost both of those games. I was drafted and played 12 years in Major League Baseball, starting in the minor leagues like everybody else. But unlike a lot of my colleagues, especially on the great teams that I was on, I started in rookie ball. I was a college senior. I pitched in the College World Series in 1977 in the semifinals against Arizona State, and I lost that game. They eventually beat us the next game to win the national championship. And 2 weeks after that, I was in rookie ball in Sarasota, Florida, riding the buses and starting at the very bottom. So I know what it's like to start at the bottom of an industry. And in my opinion, and without being a braggart, which I can be at times, I reached the pinnacle of pitching on one of the great pitching staffs of the second half of the 20th century. Now, was I a star on that team? No, but I held my own. And so I lived the life, and I lived it at every level. I started in rookie ball. I went to A ball, double A, triple A. I had all those highs and lows, thought I was going to get released. Didn't think I ever get to the big leagues. I never really thought about getting to the big leagues till the day they told me I was going to the big leagues. So I kept my goals short in nature. What can I do today to make myself a better pitcher? I think that's good advice I can give anybody. I've been around a lot of parents. My son played all the way through grammar school, high school, actually played professionally. And it's amazing how many parents think their kid is A-Rod or Roger Clemens. And, I never felt that way about myself, and justifiably so. I was reminded of that every day by my teammates. But what I did do, though, was try to make myself better every day. I competed against myself, and I didn't care what anybody else was doing. And I think that's good advice for any young player, any young pitcher, any young executive. When my playing days were done, I retired and I went home to Miami and I said, what do I do now? I'm 32 years old. How do I differentiate myself from every other guy that's 32 years old with 10 years working experience? And so I said, well, I'm going to go to law school. My brother is an outstanding attorney in Miami, Florida, Christopher Lynch. And so I enrolled in University of Miami Law School. And I wasn't sure I was going to get in. It had been 11 years since I've been in school. So I had a good friend write me a recommendation letter. This guy was a fan when I played for the Mets. I had lunch with him and Ronnie Darling and Keith Hernandez and Gary Carter. And so when it came time to apply to law school, he offered and I accepted. He wrote me a recommendation letter. And it was Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon is not exactly Mr. Popularity at law schools, okay? But when the University of Miami received that letter, his official letterhead, they called me up and said, we don't take too kindly to jokes like this. And I said, it's not a joke. I know the guy. And they didn't believe me till I went down there. Luckily, I had a picture of me and Tricky Dick. In 1985, he was in the clubhouse. Somebody took a picture, and it's one of my most cherished pictures anyway. So going through law school, I was just totally planning on being a civil litigator. I think I'm really smart. I like to talk. I have all the answers, blah, blah, blah. So I thought I'd make a good civil litigator. About 2 months before I graduated from law school, Joe McIlvaine, who was a Met executive when I was a player, who I had several conversations with when I was a player. I was very interested in what he did and his function of evaluating players. And Joe had great drafts. You can't argue with Joe McIlvaine's drafts in the 80s. My God, he had, Darryl Strawberry, Dwight Gooden, all these guys that were Lenny Dykstra, just Randy Myers, just great, turned out to be great players. And Joe offered me the job of, director of player development for the San Diego Padres. And what that job is, for you guys don't know, is that you're in charge of the entire minor league system. You're in charge of 200 players, 30, 40 coaches, rovers, managers at the minor league level, trainers, nutritionists. We didn't have nutritionists back then, but I had to work with team doctors. I had to work, with workers' comp law, and all that stuff helped me, when I dealt with some agents, but when you're dealing with minor league players, they're agents, you have the hammer, it's not like they're Otani or anything like that. They're just lucky that you called them. So, but anyway, I did that for 3 years, and, then Joe McIlvain got fired in San Diego, and he went to New York, wanted me to come with him as his assistant GM, and I did. And that was like one of the worst Met teams ever when we walked in there, the 94 Mets. That was 93 Mets. That was when, Saberhagen sprayed bleach at the writers. Vince Coleman threw an explosive device at fans at Dodger Stadium, which I think it was kind of an exaggeration. I know both of those guys, and I can't believe they would do something like that, but they did. And, that team was in the dumps. So Joe put me in charge of the writers because he didn't want to deal with them. I said, okay, Joe, I'm coming out of San Diego as a minor league director. Now you want me to be the liaison or the guy in charge of the largest media force on the North America continent. I mean, really, Joe? So I did my best. I tried to be honest. You can't win, you can't lose. I learned a lot of lessons. And I'll tell you what, for all you up and coming geniuses, there's certain do's and don'ts with the media that you do that people don't really talk about. And I know it's changed. Bloggers and everything's digital, blah, 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 blah. But the bottom line is all those guys want access, and they all want to be special. And so there's a lot to that. So I'm digressing. Anyway, Bob Nightengale, my partner, and I, he's a renowned, good friend, one of my best friends, renowned writer, highly respected, knows everybody in the game. I know everybody in the game at a certain level, the older guys, but we feel that, or I feel that there's a lot of misinformation out there, a lot of people talking a lot of smack that have no business talking smack, and they hide behind numbers, like we're robots, like artificial intelligence is going to build your starting rotation. I don't think that's going to happen because it's a human industry. No matter how sophisticated you want to be, you've got to go out there and you got to have 5 people that go out and pitch every 5th day. And you have to have relievers that come in behind them. Now, I'm not an expert on offense, but I scouted for 16 years. I'll tell you that. I went out there every day, 8 months a year, 7 days a week. And I had to look at players at every level, 19-year-old Dominicans to 32-year-old free agents. Guys that are going to make $1,200 a month, the guys that you're going to pay $200 million to. So, and this is not like, hey, I think Mike Trout's a good player. This is stuff, a very concise template that we all deal with. And all you scouts out there know what I'm talking about. You have to sit down at your computer after watching a guy for 5 days in the minor leagues and decide what he's going to be. Anybody can tell you what he's already been. The analytics are one thing. The analytics are historians. They tell you what's already happened. They're not going to tell you what's happening in the future. The hardest thing about being a professional or any scout is you have to tell your boss what's going to happen in the future with this player. Now, if you want to extrapolate numbers off the Harry High School, whose mother's the official scorer, and he hit 400, well, he's going to hit 400 in the big league. No, it's not going to happen. So, you have to predict the future, and you're never going to be right 100% of the time. But you use certain cardinal rules when you're evaluating a high school player, whether he's going to play in the major leagues. And it's a very difficult journey. I can't believe I made it. I didn't have that much ability. I didn't throw that hard. I mean, I had a good breaking ball. I was big and tall, and I threw downhill at the hitters, and I had a really good change up in the minor league. So, I mean, it's numbers only tell the story. I mean, you're going to go to an acting school and use analytics to decide if Dustin Hoffman's going to star in your next movie. I mean, come on. It's a human industry, and it's what's inside that matters. The greatest player that I ever played with, Keith Hernandez. I mean, if you grade him out, he's going to get pissed when I say this. He always does, but below average power, below average runner. But who needs to run if you're a first baseman? But the intangibles, well, he was on a scale. Everything's a scale of 2 to 8, 20 to 80. Why? I don't know. Somebody fell in love with the numbers 20 and 80. But there's objective numbers and then there's subjective numbers. So an objective number would be, okay, if you hit over 310, you're an 80 hitter. If you hit 300 to 310, you're a 70 hitter, blah, blah, all the way down the line. If you run from the left side 4-1, you're a 50 runner. If you run 4 flat, you're a 60 runner. But a lot of the other ones are subjective. Arm strength, defense. I don't think there's an analytic way to accurately predict the defensive prowess of a player. I really don't. I don't know how they do it. Defensive metrics? I don't know what that means. I mean, that's like looking at your wife and said, I fell in love with my wife because her metrics were off the chart. No, it's something you have to look at. It's something you have to see. You have to see, unless you shove a GPS up a guy's ass, I don't want to hear these metrics on his range. Really, I really don't, to tell you the truth. So, there's a lot of nonsense out there. These analytic guys have just taken over the game. They have a purpose. They really do. But when I read an evaluation of a pitcher, and I don't see wins and losses in there. I don't see anything that addresses whether the guy can win a game. Sonny Gray, great pitcher, obviously. Last year he was 8-8. ERA was good. He averaged 5 2/3 per start, and he just signed a 3-year contract for $75 million. Everything's relative. Everything is relative. I don't blame the player. I don't blame the guys that are signing them. I blame the system they've created. We do not produce starting pitchers. Everybody's saying the most valuable commodity on the market is veteran starting pitchers, but we don't create them. In the minor leagues, we're babying the shit out of these pitchers. They're in the weight room, pounding out the weights, doing squats. They're throwing every day on the side as hard as they can. What I used to do is prepare myself to abuse my arm when it counted. At 7:35, that's all I cared about. At night, 7:35. That's when I abused my arm. I didn't abuse my arm throwing on the side. I didn't play the long toss until my arm's hanging. And then the next day, say after one inning, geez, I'm gassed. Another thing, we used to run. We go on the outfield, we run. You have to carry your own body weight. It's like a running back doing the treadmill all day long. You got to get on the ground and take the pounding. Your legs, you have to carry your own body weight. That's the way you do it. I remember Tom Seaver, my idol. I pitched with Tom in 1983, the whole year. We're in the rotation together. Can you imagine that? Ed Lynch, a shit ball and long man, in a rotation all year with George Thomas Seaver, my idol. It's like some hack in writer's school spending a summer with, William Shakespeare. You got to be kidding me. And he would bust my chops and I bust his chops. He used to come in and go, hey, Ed, congratulations. I say, what, Tom? He goes, you're leading the league in incomplete games. I was like, hey, great, Tom. Thanks a lot. But I said to him one day, I said, hey, Tom, when you were Tom Seaver in the old days, and he'd laugh, how did you condition yourself? He said, I would run 20 50-yard sprints as hard as I could possibly go, like a guy's chasing me with a knife. Take as long as you want to walk back, but do 20 of those. That takes you about an hour to do that. It really does. If you want to condition yourself, I can get a 50-year-old dentist to jog in the park for an hour, but try doing 20 50-yard sprints. Start with 10 50-yard sprints. Guys are in on the treadmill or in a pool. Shit, you get on that hard ground with your spikes on and you run on that grass as hard as you can go. That's how you avoid injuries. That's how you get stronger, because pitching is a explosion rest sport. Now, the shot clock, as I call it, the pitcher's clock, has changed that. And, Ronnie Darling and I talked about that. By the way, I don't want to give it away, but my first guest is going to be Ronnie Darling. And, he talked about that a little bit. And Ronnie was a warrior. He looked like a pretty boy, but you talk about one tough son of a bitch. So you have to go out there and you got to get your legs strong. And I'll tell you what, I did it in Pittsburgh one day. I remember I did 20 50-yard sprints as hard as I can go. And I thought I was in good shape. I'm fat now, but back then I was in really good shape. The next day, I couldn't get out of bed. Not only my legs, but my ass, your rib cage, everything. But that's what pitching is. It's an explosion motion. It's an explosion sport. And you have rest. Now, with the shot clock, it's shorter, but it's still enough. It's still enough, so I digress. Anyway, I think we're going to talk about all these issues. And the good thing about my experience, if you want to be a general manager, tune in. I'm going to have a show on how I think you should become a general manager. Things have changed, but certain things never change. Certain things never change in terms of what people are looking for, okay? When I became a general manager, they might be looking for A, but now they're looking for like A with a little tweak on it. You have to have a little different skills, and that's fine. But it's still about people, managing people, talking to people, being the guy that can articulate to the public, what what the goal is of the organization. You gotta lay out the vision for the organization as a leader in any organization. So I'm all over the place with this, but I really think it's going to be fun. I mean, I'm going to cut through a lot of the bullshit I'm hearing all the time. Excuse me, I'm going to say the word shit. I'm going to try not to drop F-bombs unless somebody says something really stupid. But, there's certain things need to be addressed in this game. They need to be addressed. Game 4 of the World Series, you got staff day. Staff day was like the last day of instructional league when you had no one to pitch or nobody wanted to pitch. So everybody pitch an inning, Yahoo, And what you do is you put your worst pitcher out there in the first inning. And then you progressively go to your best pitcher in the last inning in case you're winning. So we saw the results of Game 4 of the World Series. And I don't blame anybody. I blame the system that's been created, the way we coddle starting pitchers and we abuse the shit out of relievers. There's something wrong with that. But anyway, I was told that I need to just talk off the cuff and say what I think our show's about. And that's what it's about. And I'll tell you what, I have some guests lined up. They're going to be unbelievable. And Bob Nightengale, one of my best friends, he knows everybody. He's been doing this for 30 years. I mean, I'm the inside guy. I can get all the inside people, but he can get the stars. And, I love Bob. So I think we're going to have a great time. So if you want to come surfing with us, tune in. And this is going to be my introduction to my first episode. I got about a half hour with Ronnie Darling. One of my closest friends, great athlete, great person, smart as hell. I hate him because he's so good looking. And I think we'll have a lot of fun. So tune in. Thanks.